I've owned literally over 40 of these e-bikes, and there are 5 important things I wish I knew before I got them, and I hope you pay attention to if you're in the market for an e-bike. Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, Josh here again with Daily Mountain Bike Rider, and if you haven't followed my channel before, I normally ride mountain bikes, but e-bikes companies like this love to send me their bikes for free in order for featuring them in videos like this. And because I've owned over 40, I learned some important things that I wish people would know before they bought their first e-bike. And the first thing you need to realize is that these bikes are very, very heavy, and along with that, cumbersome. This bike over here looks like a run-of-the-mill e-bike. It's a great build quality, but it weighs 68 pounds. And if you imagine a 50-pound bag of dog food or anything else that weighs, I don't know, 60 pounds, a small child, it's heavy, but then when you go to pick it up or move it around, the weight is not proportional. If you pick it up by the seat, that's kind of the center of gravity, but even then, it's really, really difficult to move these things around. And this one over here is a foldable e-bike, so it weighs less at about 55 pounds. But still, please consider if you're somebody who can't lift a bike or get it on or off of a truck or a bike rack or into your garage, you're gonna have some problems. Now, moving on to number 2, I realize when people buy e-bikes, usually it's a couple and they buy 2 of them. And as you can see from my garage full of bikes stored all around me, storing bikes is really difficult, but storing e-bikes is even more difficult. Again, they're so heavy, so you can put them on lifts like these that have pulleys on them, but you're hoisting up 65 to 70 pounds suspended from your wall with bolts, which can get a little sketchy. Or if you think about hanging your bike over here, an e-bike is pretty heavy and hard to get up to the height in order to hang it so that it is out of the way. Now, some people can just store an e-bike in their garage, or it might even be more advantageous to buy a shed for the side of your house that you can simply roll your e-bikes into, but you have to buy a pretty big shed. Make sure it's accessible by rolling them in so you don't have to lift them. All that being said, think about where you're gonna put these things before you order them online or go pick them up from a bike shop. Now, let's just assume that you bought your bike from a bike shop or you're going on a drive in order to ride it somewhere. You have to think about how are you going to get it there. Transporting e-bikes is really challenging, and here's why. This is a super sturdy bike rack. This costs about $1,000, but this is actually rated in order to hold heavy e-bikes that weigh 50 to 60 pounds. Most bike racks that you'll find on Amazon or for good price aren't rated for that much weight. You've probably seen people who have a bike rack on the back of their car that's sagging, that's swaying around, that looks super dangerous. And so you have to consider, is your car set up to have a bike rack like this, or can you put your e-bike inside your car? Now, a foldable e-bike like this one over here, the Oremo, which is an awesome foldable bike, is still 55 pounds after you fold it up that you have to now lift up into your car. And another thing that people don't think about, let's say you have a bike rack, you're already into biking, but you buy an e-bike like this one, which is called a Highboy. This has fenders on the front and back. So after you manage to lift this thing up and get it in your bike rack, you have to adjust it for the wheel size. But the other thing is that you may hit your fenders when you're loading it, which has happened to me on so many of these e-bikes, and I have to set it up where it's a little janky that I'm pressing into a fender to hold on a rear tire. And just make sure your bike rack matches the style of bike that you've bought. If you have big fenders, you probably want something that's gonna hold it in the middle. If you don't have fenders, these type of bike racks that hold your wheels are better because it doesn't cause any damage to happen to the frame itself. All that being said, talk to a local bike shop, go look up online and find a bike rack that's gonna fit the style of bike that you bought. Now, the fourth thing you really have to consider is where are you actually going to be riding your bike? And not to sound like Captain Obvious here, people will buy an e-bike and not think about every time they want to go ride somewhere, they have to put their bike rack on or get their truck ready. They have to load their bike up, put on their helmet, drive, let's say 15 or 20 minutes in order to go and ride for an hour or two. All that being said, consider where you're going to ride your bike, if it's from your home, if it's from your vacation house, wherever you're buying it, and make sure that you're willing to put in the effort and energy needed to use the great bike that you just purchased. Don't be one of those people, we've all done it in other ways, where you buy something and you never end up using it. Think about where you're gonna ride your bike. All right, so let's say you listen to my 4 tips. You thought about how to store your heavy cumbersome bike. You've thought about transporting it and you know for sure you're going to ride it. Here's the last thing I really hope people consider. What are you going to do when your e-bike breaks? Now, being that this is a bike, that it's mechanical, that it has a big battery on it, it's not a question of if it's going to break. Eventually everything breaks down, and where are you going to go? If you buy from a really well-known, reputable brand, usually you can go to the bike shop you bought it from, or you can email customer service, and most of the time they do a really good job. Now, other times there will be brands that maybe you haven't heard of, like one of these two e-bikes, and their customer service will help you out. But if you need to replace a part, they're not just going to want you to ship your bike back and send you a new one. You're going to have to go to a local bike shop, and you want to make sure that you have a relationship built. Find a local bike shop that has e-bikes like the ones you're looking at and has experience fixing them with the small things that happen. What you don't want to do is spend a lot of money, have a part sent to your house, and you have no idea where to go or how much it's going to cost in order to fix the great thing you have. All right, that about wraps up my 5 things. If there's other things you wish people would consider before buying an e-bike, leave a comment down below. If you're interested in these 2 bikes, they're ones I highly recommend. 1, the foldable ones make it easy so you don't need a bike rack. And then 2, these step-throughs with the batteries on the back may be heavy, but they last a long time. They have great build quality. Click the links below and check out these 2 bike companies. All right, you know what time it is. Don't spend too much time researching somebody talking about e-bikes, but get out there, ride your bike. And if you can, make sure you do it every day.